And welcome again to Beyond the Headlines. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Nigeria's long and often turbulent relationship with organized labor appears to be at a crossroads. In recent weeks, the federal government, as you're aware, has recorded notable breakthroughs. Resident doctors suspended their planned January 12th strike. They chose dialogue over disruption. And just yesterday, the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, signed a fresh agreement with the federal government, which seems to have rekindled the hope that the era of endless shutdowns in our public universities may finally be winding down. I had an exclusive with the ASU president last night, and it was quite optimistic that things are different this time. But even as those fires cool, another one is raging. For exactly 2 months today, health workers under the Joint Health Sector Unions, Johesu, have remained on an indefinite nationwide strike, which began on November 15 last year, and that has paralyzed services across federal health institutions. At the center of this dispute is the unimplemented salary adjustments under the Consolidated Health Salary Structure, CONHES, a long-standing grievance dating back over a decade, and now a fresh flashpoint: the federal government's decision to enforce its controversial no work, no pay policy, with salaries reportedly stopped via IPPIS. The Trade Union Congress has stepped in, and they are issuing a final warning, accusing government of intimidation, abuse of power, and negotiating in bad faith, as well as threatening nationwide resistance if the circular is not withdrawn. Government, on the other hand, is also insisting it's acting within the law, citing fiscal discipline, service delivery, and the principle that wages must correspond to work done. If you're not working, why should we pay you? That's what government is saying. Tonight, we ask the important questions. Is this about fairness or force? Are we looking at dialogue or discipline? And who ultimately bears the cost of government? Who ultimately bears the cost? Is it government, the workers, or Nigerian patients who now suffer for it? Let's bring in Kamal Ibrahim, who's president of the Nigeria Union of Allied Health Professionals, one of the 4 registered unions that make up Johesu. Mr. Ibrahim, thank you for joining us. Let's go beyond the headlines. Johesu has been on strike for 2 months now, exactly 2 months today. I'm sure you know patients are struggling, hospitals are stretched, and public sympathy is also thinning. In one sentence, what is the single most important thing you would say federal government has failed to do that makes this strike unavoidable?
Thank you for having me once more. Good evening, viewers. In one sentence, federal government has failed to honor the agreement and the document that they have produced to adjust the CONHES upward as it was done to commence 12 years ago. That is the failure that led to this strike.
We'll discuss the details of these grievances shortly, but let us look at the fallout. Reports is estimating over 400 billion naira in losses across some 73 federal health institutions since this strike began last year, alongside issues like delayed surgeries, overstretched emergency units, and preventable suffering. How does Johesu respond to Nigerians who argue that, you know what, whatever the merits of your demands are, the human and economic costs are becoming indefensible? Mr. Ibrahim, can you hear me?
Yeah, let me once more, as usual, show our concern and sympathy to the Nigerian populace, and we really are sure and knows the consequence of this. And we once more, as usual, say that we are led to the no option than to take this action due to the failures of the federal government to honor the document which they produced to adjust CONHES upward, implement and circularize the circular as was done to commence 2014. The issue at hand is an issue that has history since 2009, where we migrated from counties to commerce and coherence two-salary structure existing in health sector, which the reason for creating these structures is best known to the Ministry of Health. And we as a leaders, we insist that employee of the same ministry and organizations ought to have same one salary structure. That what led to a collective bargain agreement which stated clearly that it is agreed that whenever there is need for adjustment of either of the salary structure, the same will be happened to the two salary structure at the same time. But unfortunately, after the 2014, when the 2009 that agreement was signed, in 2014, we've realized that the consolidated medical salary structure, which is meant for physicians, was adjusted upward. And in 2017, the same thing was done. Then 2018, the same thing was done. And since 2014, this agitation demand started that the federal government need to honor that CVA which they signed to ensure that the two-salary structure goes side by side. And as I'm talking to you, the 3 series of adjustment that was made has left the coherence salary structure unattended to and give a huge gap, which about almost a 50% increment in comparison with commerce. And that has become a worrisome to all members of Johesu. And it got to the extent whereby he has introduced a real rivalry and discrimination, which has affected service delivery in the centers. So now, recently in 2000, and when we argued that, we argued up to 2021, when government now agreed that yes, there's an aberration created between the two salary structure, which was done in 2014, and the Federal Ministry of Health set a committee, high-level committee, where all the ministry and parastatals concerned, as well as the Office of Secretary to Government, were presented and came out with documents that need to correct that aberrations. So in 2023, that document was transmitted to DG Budget for further process implementations. Now in 2005, the government, 2025 now, the Federal Ministry of Health now felt that they have to bring all the parties together and have a fresh CBA, that's collective bargaining agreement, to rest all the issues. So our argument is this: the baseline that needs to build on this collective bargaining agreement has not been established, because one salary structure has been tinkered with over 3 times without others. So we are agitating that this adjustment that have been made, or the correction that have been made in 2021, has to be implemented so that we'll have a better baseline in which the CVA will be discussed. But worrisome, you may agree with me, with this adjustment that was done 3 times against commerce without coherence, has left a huge gap that people cannot imagine. I give you an instance. Head workers who has been employed at coherence 9, a medical practitioner came in coherence 12. It will take that person no less than 6 to 9 years to grow up to that coherence 12. And you imagine the salary package of that coherence 12 of a physician is still higher than the same head worker who is in that coherence 12. So it's telling you that somebody that have grown over 9 years to a position, somebody that comes a day, is still earning a salary more than that. That does not stop at that instance. The other allowances we have is the establishment that they collect 100% higher than what we have. So what we are arguing is that we have established a collective bargaining agreement which government have agreed in 2009, that 2 salary structures are now existing in this ministry. And it has agreed that whatever is done to one salary structure must be done to the other, because we are a team that provides services. Any member of this team who decide not to provide the service, there will be defect in the service delivery. So we felt whatever is the reasons that was made to adjust commerce, the same reason must be extended to other salary areas.
Mr. Ibrahim, we'll talk more about coherence and commerce shortly. But I'd like us to quickly address what seems to be government's hardest argument here. As of today, government is insisting the no work, no pay policy is lawful. They have cited labor precedents and the principle that public funds cannot pay for services not rendered. If this matter ends up before the courts, what do you think is Johesu's strongest argument that salary stoppage during this strike is not justifiable?
Well, we are of the view, and we are committed to this fight. We did it intentionally because we know what is our right. As labor leaders, we identify what is our right, and we are doing right. And the provision for going to strike has been provided in this Industrial Dispute Act, and we have fulfilled all the requirements that need to be met before going on strikes. And we have seen the issue of circular for no work, no pay. Because we are determined and we are intentionally go on this to fight for our rights. We saw it and we are not arguing it. But however, you could see a recent response by our parents, because you cannot be going into a negotiation with us, on the other hand, and you issue a letter of intimidation, on the other hand. You are weakening our bargaining strength. That is our point.
I hear you, but specifically, are Johesu workers expecting to be paid for the last 2 months that they did not work?
Yes, because we have fulfilled the right to go on strikes. It's an aberration of our rights, and we've run into the right. And the Ministry of Federal Government has the right, has the opportunity to arrest the situation, because the 15 days ultimatum was rightly served. And I bet you the Ministry of Health or the federal government did not call us for any discussion until the eve of the day of expiration of the ultimatum. And we have left no option to go on strikes. So in that case, we are arguing in that perspective that we have made the requirement, we have given the window period to address the issue, and they could not address it.
Let's go on a short break. When we return, we'll talk more about why this issue has lasted for so long and what you think must happen for Johesu to return to work. Stay with us, everyone. President of the Nigerian Union of Allied Health Professionals, Kamal Ibrahim, thank you for staying the course on the program this evening. You've described this strike as the culmination of a long betrayal rather than a sudden breakdown, walking us through the past years and what has happened. Walk us through, for clarity, the core grievance, how the high-level body committee's report on the adjusted consolidated health salary structure, CONHES, submitted to the Presidential Committee on Salaries and Wages as far back as 2022 became a tipping point for this shutdown. In 2009, we understand that comments for doctors, there was a collective bargain agreement that created 2 parallel salary structures, comments for doctors and COHES for other health professionals. In 2014, that's about 5 years after, comments was adjusted and implemented. Precisely, what do you think happened to CONHES and why you think it's not enjoying the exact attention that comments enjoyed?
That is a strong point that we are challenging, because we've never been informed or called to give a sufficient reasons why any action will be taken against the CBA that have signed in 2019. It is expected that if there's any justifications, just as you asked, that CBA would be respected. We have the right to be called to discuss on it. But just as you asked, the physician claims that they have a CBA that also give them authority to have that that difference between comments and CONHES, which we are not part. In the labor law practice, a non-member of your organization cannot discuss on behalf of you. So we are saying we are not part of that discussions, Therefore, it cannot be linked to our discussion that we had earlier in 2009. And that's why we have a strong hold over 2009 collective bargaining, which we collectively do as a baseline to discuss. But I bet you, in all the discussion we had with government, nobody has taken responsibility to explain to us why there's need to adjust or improve on the comments, why comments remain static where it is. It's a big question that every one of our members is asking, which is the basic reason why we are insisting that ours must be also adjusted. And if we have had a new reasons for why it should be done, so we should have gone on strike.
Yeah. Well, I'm counting in my fingers precisely how many times this have happened. And I'm also looking at precisely what you think has happened in the past 8 weeks of this particular strike, Mr. Ibrahim. What kind of conversations have happened? Because some government MDAs have said the absence of the Presidential Committee on Salaries stalled progress, and that once reconstituted, the process had to restart properly, and what have you. Have you been able to exhaust every channel of dialogue before escalating to an indefinite strike? And what has happened in the past 2 months, at the dialogue table? Have you been speaking with government, or it's been silence for that long?
Hello?
Mr. Ibrahim, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm asking if there's been any form of dialogue between Johesu and government in the past 8 weeks of this strike.
Okay, it may interest you and public to know that since inception of this agitation as far as 2014, we have had up to 6 strikes on the same issue. And we have entered into no less than 9 MOU on way forward to resolve this issue. And I can bet you that all these MOU have never seen the reality of the day. So the one that came recently, it is as a result of the document that was produced by a high-level committee set by the Ministry of Health in the presence of all ministry and parastatals that has concern in the implementation of this agreement was done. And in 2023, when the President of Nigeria, President Ahmed Tinubu, came in, he met us on strikes. And he has, but we had a personal direct contact with him and discussed. And he assured us that when he settled down, this issue would be addressed. And I bet you, up to date, in the past 2.5 years, nothing has been done about it. So now, when we now declare this final strike of the 2 months ago, we had only 2 interface under the leadership, under the chairmanship of the Minister of Labour. But all the 2 discussions or reconciliation ended deadlocks. It's deadlocked because the issue before the federal government as a contentious for the strike, we don't see any practical interest or faithful attempt to address it. And therefore, we are seeing that we have saw that the issue before them is real. It is not our production, it's not a document. The document produced by government, the representative of government, and the Federal Ministry of Health has transmitted the same document to the DG budget for the Presidential Committee of Salary to attend to. And that's what we're asking, since it's their document, and we are convinced that an abbreviation has been done between the comments and coins about 3 times. And the committee has a report which has been adopted. The government should implement that report so that we have a better baseline for discussing allowances, which is before the CBA committee. The issue that arose this time around is the issue of CBA. CBA cannot be discussed because all the allowances are derivative of basic salary. And there is already distinction between the comments and coins as a salary structure in the Ministry of Health. If we want to be fair to ourselves, those distinctions need to be addressed first so that we can have a better discussion at CBA.
2 meetings in the past 8 weeks ended deadlock, and you're saying it's because you did not see signs of seriousness on the part of government. TUC is also now threatening to join the strike, and you understand the implication of that on the economy. What's the way forward? Let's say, for instance, the federal government announces and immediate acceptance of the high-level body report on CONHEDS, but proposes phased implementation due to budget restraints. Do you think Johesu will suspend the strike, or confidence has eroded too much?
It's a single demand. It's a single demand, and it's a clear and straightforward demand that what was done to commerce need to be done to CONHEDS for the suspension of strike to be considered. There are several interfaces going on as I'm right where I'm talking to you, and we hope that this last attempt will bring to an end to the issue. And I bet you that once this is done, even this night, the strike can be called off.
Precisely which interface are you referring to? Are you saying Johesu is meeting with Federal Minister of Health?
There are multiple interfaces with Prime Minister. As I'm talking to you, there's an ongoing meeting with the Prime Minister of Health, the President of the TVC President, and the other leaders. And I hope that we should be able to come with a stand that will be favor the strike.
This rivalry between CONHEDS and CONMES, how is it affecting relationships between medical doctors and other health workers at the hospital?
It has affected it chronically. If you can imagine what happened between 2014 to date, it has created, we started with a psychological rivalry, now it's turned to even over physical rivalry. We're also concerned because as a medical team members, there's a need for us to work collaboratively to ensure that we deliver the effective service delivery. But however, the attitude that we saw in terms of selective implementation and selective treatment is not going well with our members. And that is why if we actually need to serve our patient better and want to have a better relationship in the health sector, government needs to do the needful and address this issue once and for all.
You know that Nigerians have seen a lot of memoranda signed. You know, even Johesu has suspended strikes a couple of times under this administration. And we've seen a lot of, in reality, recycled promises. Beyond verbal commitments, because you and I understand the bureaucracy of government and how budget inclined the implementation of some of your requests have to be, what other actions would convince Johesu that this administration would not repeat the pattern of the last 12 years to be able to at least call off the strike?
If this has been taken care of, then, as I said, the Prime Minister of Health has already activated a forum where all the stakeholders in the health sector will come together to discuss how they want to live in terms of enumerations and other things. But I bet you if after addressing this current issue, when the CVA goes on, definitely we should be able to come to a meeting point where we say this is how we want to live, and everybody agrees that this is what we want to live. Then this front back agitation from other categories of people will no longer come off. So we've seen that courage from the current Minister of Health where they activated the CVA. So what we are just telling them that the platform at which the CVAs need to come and discuss is not ripened. It's not the ripe type. So we need to work and ensure that a better baseline for every categories of workers has been established. Then we can discuss. So we, from your question now, we can see that the government approach now want to raise the issue permanently if all the parties agreed. This is the first time we see a situation whereby all parties are brought at the table to discuss, and everybody say what concerns it, to identify area of align together and area of exclusive concern. So those where we are aligned, we should be able to agree, and everybody signed and say this is what we work. And that would lead to where the situation we are today, where we have a selective or isolated negotiation, and it's linking to other people. So it's not acceptable by level law that somebody would discuss on behalf of somebody in absentia, and you want us to accept it that way. So we see a move that if government really want to address it with this movement, we should be able to have a permanent solution to it. But before then, let's have a baseline where we are before.
Good place to live it. There are many Nigerians who argue that the health sector strike should be treated differently from other industrial actions because lives are directly involved, and that's why they also expect that Johesu and its health workers should carry a higher moral burden, just as government also needs to pay more attention. The hopes are high given what we've seen in the past weeks with resident doctors, and just yesterday a new agreement signed with ASU. Hopefully, we're going to also see the end of this 8-week-old strike in a matter of days. Kamal Ibrahim is president of the Nigerian Union of Allied Health Professionals, one of the 4 registered unions that make up Johesu. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you for having me.
That's our show today, everyone. Thank you for being a part of it. Remember, you can watch it again at midnight and 6 a.m. tomorrow. I am Nifemi Oguntoye.